You are not just another hustling salesperson. You are the expert, the resource, the valuable partner for your clients. And how you grow your business should reflect how your clients see you. Welcome to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. We generate referrals without asking, build positive client experiences, and help you take control of your business. Here's your charmingly sarcastic host, Stacey Brown Randall.
Hey there, and welcome to episode 172 of the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Brown Randall. So recently we started doing a few episodes where I am bringing to you the stories, the experience, and the results of a student, which is a business owner, inside my Growth by Referrals program. So just a few episodes back at episode 168, I had Diana Collin on, who is a Keller Williams real estate agent out of Portland, Oregon. She came on and she really shared her journey of taking control of her referrals and what it looked like and the mindset shifts she had to make. And every person who comes into the Growth by Referrals program comes in for a different and sometimes similar reasons. Their stories may be different, their experiences, their past, how long they've owned a business, what they've believed, how many different businesses that they've owned, right? What they've believed around referrals. They all come at it from a different perspective, but most of the time they're also seeking the same thing for the same reasons, which is to grow their business in the easiest way possible and in a way that is authentic for them. And referrals feels like the best way to do that, except when you look at the advice that is out there for how to generate referrals, it is in misalignment with how most people are comfortable generating referrals. And then, of course, enter referrals without asking from stage left. And people are learning that it is possible to generate referrals without asking, without paying, without being promotional or gimmicky, and being able to be authentic, focused on what matters most in referrals, which are the relationships you have with your current or existing referral sources and the ones that you will have with your potential referral sources. So we're doing it again. We're doing another taking control of your referrals. And this is the journey of one attorney. So Rick McDermott has been in the program since 2019. And he and I are going to talk about what it was like, why he joined the program, his firm, in complete contrast to Diana, who was on for episode 168. She had been a real estate agent for 30 years before she joined the GBR program. Rick is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and he had actually only been practicing with his own firm. He had been a lawyer at a big firm for many, many, many years, but he had actually only started his own firm 1 year prior in October of 2018. So he came into the program and got started in October of 2019. And we're going to map his journey for you so you can see what it was like for him and some questions that he had before starting the program that I didn't even know. But it's, of course, all good and all good results. And he has had a just gangbuster last couple of years. And I'm excited to share his journey with you. So please welcome Rick to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. Rick, thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast today to talk to me. I am so excited for people to hear your journey and to hear a little bit about your story. But let's start first with a little bit about you and the work you do.
Sure. Thanks, Stacey. It's great to be here today. So, as you said, my name is Rick McDermott. I am an intellectual property lawyer. So my entire practice is focused on intellectual property issues, patents, trademarks, copyrights, licensing of IP, litigation related to IP, anything that relates to intellectual property, I cover it. And I started my own firm almost about 3 years ago. I was with a large general practice firm prior to that and decided that I wanted to have my own practice that was dedicated just to IP issues and one that I would have a little bit more control over the work that I did and who my clients were. And so that's been just about 3 years ago. And it's been a great journey so far.
That is so awesome. I remember kind of like one of our very first conversations, you were almost hitting the 1 year mark when you actually referred to me by somebody and you were almost hitting that 1 year mark. And it was just fun to hear how your story was just almost your first year in. And now here you are coming up on 3 years. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely. I remember probably that first meeting, probably that same meeting you're referring to, where you said that some people that you start to work with already have a few years, under their belt, and they've got some experience about the numbers and what the referrals look like. And I was fairly new, but I was also pretty confident that I needed some assistance with respect to, my referral sources and making sure that I continue the work that was happening.
Yeah. So let's dig in there, because I love kind of how you took the perspective of kind of why you dove into the Growth by Referrals program. So for context, folks, let me just give you a little bit about Rick's numbers so you can kind of understand a little bit where he is. And then he'll talk about kind of getting started with his second year in business and doing the Growth by Referrals program at the same time. And then we'll talk about the success he's had since then. So Rick, that's true. When we first had that conversation, I already knew you were doing well with referrals just because, well, you knew numbers. And that is always like, if people are like, well, I don't know, is usually the answer. I'm like, oh boy. But you were like, no, I have a pretty good idea. So you started your firm in October of 2018. So in one full year, from October of 18 to October of 19, you had 30 referrals received, which for a lot of first-time businesses, I don't care what you do, that's a really big number that most would aspire to, but probably not hit. So you already had a very strong referral showing, so to speak, referral growth in that first year. So what was it for you that said, okay, I'm doing great with referrals, but I want to join the Growth by Referrals program? Like what was that decision process for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I first started on my own in October of 2018, I had a number of clients who came with me when I left my prior firm. But most of the new clients that came to me from that point forward came through referrals. As you said, I had a very good kind of referral network as I started my new practice. And as I realized that throughout the year, I obviously realized how important referrals were and were going to be to my practice. Because I realized that so many of my new clients were coming through referrals that I had. And I just decided at that point that I needed to do something more to make sure that continued to happen. And also that I made the most out of those referrals and the referral sources as I possibly could. And probably to a certain extent, I realized that although it was happening and I knew there had to have been a reason that it was happening, I wanted to make sure I understood that better and did everything I needed to do to continue it.
Well, and continue it, you did, most definitely. I mean, when we think about that first year for you, 30 referrals, you started the Growth by Referrals program. We kind of kicked off the timeline we focused on was October of 2019. So you're starting your second year with your firm through October of 2020. So that 1 year, we set a goal of 40. And that was pretty low, probably considering the fact that you had 30 referrals in your first year of business. And now we were looking at your second year. Usually we probably would have set that goal higher, except that you were a new business. And we wanted to make sure it wasn't some one hit wonder that first year of everybody wanting to refer you because you were new. So we set a pretty conservative, if I could speak, goal of 40. But you blew right past it. You doubled it from the year prior, your first year. So your second year in, you received 60 referrals in your second year in business. How did that feel? Just looking at the numbers in October of 2020 and being like, whoa, I went from 30 to 60 in 1 year.
It definitely felt good. I was really happy with the success. And I knew that a lot of that success came because I was, part of this program and because of the help that you were providing me. Not only the system itself, but just the mindset and the framework around thinking about referrals and what to do with respect to referrals. And so I was really excited about it, excited about how that might continue and help me grow the firm. But also excited that I had a system in place that would allow me to do that.
And I think that's the thing when we're thinking about the ability for our business to sometimes work a little easier, right? I mean, I think running a business is just hard. There's so many moving pieces and parts. And most of us get into business because we're really good at something, right? You're a really good attorney. That is what you're good at. And then you have to do all the other things like bookkeeping and invoicing and all those, and the marketing, right? Like all the other things, like having a website and like all the other things that come along with being a business owner. And I think anything we can do that makes it a little bit easier as we're figuring out business ownership and having clients, as I like to say, drop into your lap ready to go because they're referred to you, certainly makes the rest of running your business easier if you have clients that are, of course, coming in the door. And so you continued with that success in your next year. And so now we're looking at your referrals on just a calendar year. So if we look at 2021, we have your numbers through July. So at the time when this will actually go live, this episode will be live. You'll have a few more months after that, but we're looking at your goal for 2021 and you have a goal of 75 referrals. So we went from 30 our first year to a goal of 40, but receiving 60 in the second year. And now in 2021, a goal of 75. And when you think about the first half of the year in, you're already at 55 referrals. So it would be amazing if you probably even doubled that. You would blow past your goal of 75. But it does create this ability to kind of understand where your business is coming from. And it creates, now that you're 3 years in, this almost tracking and benchmarking of where your business comes from and what relationships are producing the most referrals and what relationships produce some referrals, and then what you're doing to take care of them. So what has it meant for your business just to kind of, if you're just looking at that referral plan and you're just looking at how you execute on it year over year over year, what has that meant for your business?
So it definitely has given me a confidence that I'm not sure that I would have had otherwise. And that confidence is in knowing that because I'm doing what I'm doing with respect to growth by referrals, that I know that I'm going to be able to get referrals, and I know that I'm going to increase the number of new clients that I have, and I know that I'm going to have more work. And as you mentioned, that creates a lot of other things that we need to do, of course, but it's good for the business. And so being part of the Growth by Referrals program has given me that confidence to know that my business is going to continue to grow.
Which is awesome. Now we only have to deal with capacity issues, right?
Yes, exactly. It's a good problem to have. That's a great problem to have.
It is, and one that is fixable. It takes a lot of courage and confidence to fix some of those capacity issues, because typically it means bringing in other people and scaling and hiring and other things that means, but definitely knowing that you kind of have that, like that referral engine kind of behind the scenes, bringing in the business to allow you to focus on, okay, now how do I handle all the continuation of increase in work? And this is very typical. Like I had Jackie Ho on the podcast earlier this year, and she and her husband own an architecture firm out of San Francisco. And, everyone deals with the same issue. She was like, okay, now we're at a capacity issue. I'm like, yes, when the referral piece starts happening the way that obviously I want it to happen for everybody in the program and the GBR program, it does mean we have to start paying attention to our business different. But for a lot of us, that's exactly why we got into business, was to be able to build a company that would support the lifestyle that we want, whether that's income goals or freedom of space. But that also means that we have to deal with those growing pains as well. And sometimes those growing pains can be quite painful, but good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly, I wouldn't give up any of those pains to be back kind of where I was maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago in a different situation. So they've been pains, yes, but they've been great pains and enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like every time my kids complain about something aching, I'm like, yeah, but just think that means you're growing. And isn't that what you want? It's like,
yeah, no, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Growing pains are painful, but they're the pain that we want. And you're right.
That's a great comparison.
I mean, imagine what it would be like for you today if you had never started your own firm.
Right. No, I think about that a lot. And it's funny too, I think back to when I did start it, and there are so many things that I have learned since then. But it's been great so far. I wouldn't have changed a thing.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Okay. So, when you're thinking about you started with the Growth by Referrals program in late 2019, you kind of went through your first year, and then you've kept that going. You're now in the inner circle. What kind of aha moments have you had about referrals in general? Like whether it's something that you've learned through the Growth by Referrals program, or if it's just something you've learned watching your business flourish and grow because of referrals. Are there any aha moments that you've had?
I'd say there are probably a couple things that have kind of struck me about the program and about referrals generally since I started. One is I did wonder at the time, am I doing this too early? Do I need to kind of let my business grow a little bit more before I think about this type of a program? And I am so glad that I started it when I did. In fact, I probably could have started it a little bit earlier, but because it was great to have my referral sources grow and the number of referrals I'm getting grow while I have a system in place, as opposed to having them grow and then kind of go back through time to kind of recreate that system. So from my perspective, I was really happy that I did it when I did it. The other thing that was interesting to me, and I'm not sure I've even shared this with you, but one of my thoughts at the time was, does Stacy really understand, intellectual property law and what I do and how I do it and that type of thing, and how applicable is this program going to be to what I do? And as I've thought about my referrals and my referral sources and the information you give me and what we've done together over the last couple of years, everything that you told me in the very beginning, even though it is maybe more generic, what has been so applicable to what I do. And so I've been able to kind of craft that into my practice. But you gave me all the tools through the program to be able to do that. And that was something I was just really pleased with. And probably one of the reasons that I joined the inner circle as well, because I knew that what you were doing for me really meant a lot in terms of my business.
Well, that's awesome. You haven't shared that with me. So I'm like blushing. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And, I get that question a lot from folks. They're like, yeah, Stacy, I get that this works for attorneys but I'm not an attorney, right? Or I get that this works for interior designers or real estate agents or financial advisors or insurance agents or coaches and consultants. I'm like, and go on and on and on. And the truth is referrals, and of course, this, right? But referrals, they're about relationships. Mm-hmm. And that is ultimately what they're about. And you recognizing the type of relationships you have with the people who refer you or who you want to refer you, that is just when you break it all down to the basic kind of components of it, it's just being a good human. Right. I mean, when you think about it, and then, yes, it can fit in different industries, definitely. And there's some industries that I don't work with because the mentality is a little bit different. Like I don't typically work in industries where the relationship you have with your clients is highly transactional. Like I would never work with a shoe store, right? Like it's a little bit different in terms of what I do and who I do it for. So I'm not saying what I do, I would teach for everybody, because there's definitely some industries and areas that I'm like, no, that I don't do medical, right? I don't do retail. There's some areas that I don't actively would say, hey, my process would work for you. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but I would not advocate that. And there's definitely areas where it does. But at the end of the day, what all of you guys have in common, myself included, is we're just taking care of the people who take care of our business.
Right.
And we're just doing it in a way that's actually not cheesy and not gimmicky and not over the top, and in a way that feels good for the person on the receiving end.
Yep. No, I totally agree.
That's awesome. Okay. So thank you so much, Rick, for just coming on and sharing your thoughts on this. I mean, what I was really hoping for is for people just to listen to another person talk about what their journey has looked like, because the questions you have that I didn't even know you had when you signed up for the program, right? I mean, I think that's brilliant. But the things that people have that run through their heads when they think about, they're kind of consuming all this information I put out there, whether it's in my book or whether it's in, this 170 something episodes now of the podcast, or it is in, they do our challenges, or, our 4-day and 5-day challenges, or they take one of our on-demand trainings, or they just read the weekly emails. They start consuming all this information. And part of it comes down to is them seeing themselves through the eyes of someone else and knowing that it's possible for your success, maybe not identical, but your success is possible for them. And so that's why I love having my GBR students on, because you can talk about I had questions in the beginning, and then here's what happened and here's how it worked. So is there anything else you would share or tell someone that was thinking about joining the Growth by Referrals program?
I think the comment I made a few minutes ago is probably the thing that I would repeat in terms of speaking to folks who are thinking about joining the program. And that is, It's not too early for you to be thinking about it. And if you're thinking about it, then you should probably do it. It's much better to kind of take the horse by the reins, if you will, and start working the referrals and setting up that system now than to just kind of let it continue without really controlling that system or that program. Don't wait anymore. If you're thinking about it, go ahead and do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's been fun. Thank you for all the help that you've been providing to me.
I got to tell you, there were moments in that interview where I was smiling as big as possible, which you guys can't see because this is only an audio podcast. I was smiling as big as possible and I was giggling a little bit and there was some blushing happening as well. Thank you, Rick, for taking time to come on this podcast and share your journey of really taking control of your referrals and what that has meant for you, the growth trajectory of your firm, and of course, your future. I would love for you guys to hop into our Referrals Without Asking Facebook group and share your thoughts on Rick's journey. If you have any questions for him, by all means, you can ask him in the Facebook group. I'm not sure he's in the group now that I say that, but I will make sure to get the questions to him and post his responses if he's not. I know he's in our paid student Facebook group. He may not be in our free one, the Referrals Without Asking Facebook group. And of course, all links mentioned for this episode, you guys know it. I'm going to link back to episode 168 where you can go listen to Diana's story along with listening to Rick's story in this episode. I will link to that on the show notes page at stacybrownrandall.com/172. That's stacybrownrandall.com/172. All right. So coming up next week is episode 173. And we are going to switch our focus just a little bit, and we're going to talk about being your best productive self as a small business owner or solopreneur. I've just got some tips that I want to share with you from time to time. I get folks who ask me, hey, what are some of your best tips that you have for being as productive as possible as a small business owner, as a solopreneur? And of course, you guys know that was what I used to do, right? When I built my whole Referrals Without Asking methodology and strategy, which is my focus now, it all started because I was trying to grow my productivity and business coaching practice. So I'm going back into the vault and pulling out some of the things that I still use today that you guys ask me about from time to time. And we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking about those productivity tips. And then, of course, we'll be right back on topic for growing your business. But let's be honest, to grow your business, you got to be productive. So we're going to spend a little bit of time there. Until then, my friends, take control and grow your business. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. To access all resources and links mentioned in today's show and to connect with Stacy, head over to www.stacybrownrandall.com.